Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using soccer accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by, I had that screen up, Sensual Goat, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. So welcome one and all.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Nathan.
Morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, good evening, welcome. Hope you're all well. How are you all doing?
Jolly good. Very good. Good, thank you.
Okay, well, if you remember, after this gets uploaded, so obviously once the live stream is concluded and the uncut and after show bit is concluded and uploaded, we had a discussion in the pre-show regarding Level Earth Observer, who, for whatever reason, I don't keep up with this particular tete-a-tete, but is in a tete-a-tete with Jaren and the guy who's been promoting the final experiment, this fraudulent pastor with his claims of experimentation, which don't adhere to the scientific method. So that's what we've been listening to in the pre-show. Now, I'm already subscribed to Level Earth Observer. He's a great videographer, really enjoy his content, and I definitely recommend that you, if you are in the live stream audience, I don't typically do calls to action so early, but just so there's good continuity with the uncut and after show, there is a link going by in the live stream chat right now. So if you are in the live stream chat, please let Level Earth Observer know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and he is definitely a friendly. Now, there is a few things that we have definitely not seen eye to eye on. He's disagreed with me, I've disagreed with him, all in the best of spirits. But it's nice to send some love to somebody who's actually a friendly. So please subscribe to him, leave him a comment, leave him a like, help him in the algorithmic love that he definitely, absolutely without question, is not receiving from YouTube. So as we have a, are we bigger than he? I don't know, we'll see. Looks like he's got less than us, maybe about half the subscribers. Wonderful. That means we can hopefully, as an audience, make some significant impact to his subscriber base by subscribing. If you like what you're watching here, there's a very good chance you'll like what he's putting out there. So go along right now, if you are watching live, and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Same thing applies, strictly speaking, if he was to do a little response video for whatever reason. You'd hope he'd put a link to my video and help us in the algorithmic love that we definitely do not receive also. But in this instance, it's nice to be helping a friendly, so hopefully that's bought enough time for you in the live stream audience to click on the link that's going by right now and let that Level Earth Observer know that we all love him just as much as I do. I'm subscribed already, so there we go. There's only 40-odd people, 42 people watching right now, but hopefully in the re-up you'll also do the same and go to the live stream chat and click on that link and go and let Level Earth Observer know that Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me here. And I really like your stuff. I subscribed and I sent you a like. Hope this video does well. There we go. That was covered in the pre-show. So check it out if you remember. It'll be uploaded once we've done the live stream and the after show. And hopefully a few of you have actually done that after my call to action. Let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Well, apparently we can view the elevation angle of the sun above the plane of reference required to measure that elevation angle for 24 hours. Can we extrapolate a distance from that?
What, like in this diagram I've got for the live audience, the elevation with respect to the horizon when measuring it above a flat plane will always perpetually remain above the flat plane. I mean, it's never been a particularly egregious issue for even the model living flat earthers in the north. It's always been easy to acquire and even myself personally, I've had somebody tune into a Tracking the Sun event where somebody just came and showed us. But in the south, it's incredibly elusive in spite of there being plenty of people down there to observe it. Nobody is. There's no videos of it. So we may potentially go down there, and observe the phenomena that until now has been really elusive. That's a bit weird. But there we go. Fine. We might observe the phenomena. We're definitely not going to be formulating it into a hypothesis and then actually validating it through experiment. The whole thing is a fraud. There's no other words for it.
Yeah, I think if Jaren realised that their question to him requires a flat plane of reference in the first instance, I don't think he'd be going. I think like the rest of us, he'd just make a coffee and stick the euros on, have a good laugh.
What do they call it in criminal terms when you're like guilty by association? So you've aided and abetted. There's a term for that in term for the person is. Nevertheless, in many ways, Jaren is aiding abetting a fraudster. That's what's going on. He's committing fraud. He's claiming he's got an experiment. There's no uncertain terms about what he's claiming. So we need to get down to the nitty-gritty brass tacks of what that means. And he isn't performing an experiment. He's leading people into a dangerous territory under false pretenses and a fraudulent claim of science. Why isn't everybody outraged?
Is that a question?
Yeah, why isn't everybody more outraged at the fraud that's being perpetrated in our midst?
Because they don't understand what science is. Still in 2024.
Oh, there we go.
I think a lot of people are so far beyond where they are, but we just don't care.
Well, as I said, past tense in the pre-show, Level Earth Observer obviously cared in this regard about how his ambassador is representing him, especially when they go out of their way to stereotype what they say as being representative of us when they use words like we. Well, I object to those unless you're actually going to represent us in a coherent way that I would agree with. As of yet, that's not the case, and when I've appealed to them to understand things like science to avoid this sort of fraud, I've been cast down as a scammer for pointing out how science functions. There we go. Such is life. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, everyone.
Did you see my best of video?
No, I didn't. No.
I released a little clip of the highlights of the QE roast from yesterday. You saying, in your pessimistic way, we'll have to have canned laughter. And then, I kid you not, 70% of the clip is you laughing. So there you go.
Yeah, he provided it for us.
I had my own words there, huh?
It was perfect. No, it was ideal because it made a nice clip. But it was done in the best of humour, and obviously I was a little bit frustrated when QE was like, I haven't got a financial issue. I'm like, that's right close to being a lie, because why else would we have had a GoFundMe? But I didn't mark him on it, even though we were in a roast, because it was like a little bit of a sharp intake of breath when he said it. I'm like, I didn't mean that people have put in cash in that regard, but I didn't mark his card for it, because I'm like, I know the reason he would give, or how he would squirm, I should say, if I was to point this out to him, which is, yes, you're very prideful, you didn't actually do this, we did it on your behalf, and etc, etc, etc. So he almost got his card marked, though, at one point. Like, legitimately, not in a roast sense.
Yeah, I understand that, because it would have sounded like this was for nothing at that point.
Almost. It was close to that, yeah.
He's trying to downplay it, that he does have a financial problem.
Exactly.
That's what he was trying to do.
But it is almost insulting if somebody's like recognises that you're in need and they force £200 into your hand, and you go, I don't need this. I'm all right. You're like, okay, give it back then.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, like I say, that's pride. That's just pride. That's a flaw, a genuine flaw. Which is why it didn't get roasted, because it could have been. There was almost a moment of that when I brought up cherry picking, man, that cut the knife with the atmosphere that created. Because when you actually pick things that are close to the bone, I'm not suggesting for 1 second cherry picking is something QE's guilty of. He isn't. But his hard work and research gets boiled down to that by his opponent. Pisses him off royally. And I knew that. So I thought I'll test the water with that and see what kind of reaction I get. And it didn't get a laugh. It definitely got an atmosphere generation, and you could cut over with a knife that thereafter. So I was like, okay, yeah, I won't use things that genuinely annoy him in this. He definitely doesn't love being accused of cherry picking, let's put it that way.
No, because it's a shame. That's a shameful thing. When you're coming from the correct background, when you've actually worked within science or within, actually, when you've actually done science and you've actually, when you're trying to be the real deal and you're being the real deal, not trying to, when you're being the real deal and you're being accused of that, it's really insulting. It's shameful. There's a shame connected to it, I think, that kind of way. And I think that's why for him to do that, he'd never be able to look himself in the mirror again.
Right. It's the equivalent of going up to a doctor who's in an ER or something similar where there's medical emergencies, and all their motivation drives them to do is save lives, and someone after the fact accuses them of intentionally causing life loss. It would cut so deep, because it's like, no, my motivation is completely the opposite to that. And a consequence of actions that are beyond my control that I try and resolve after the fact, people do die. But to accuse me of causing that is outrageous when my only purpose is to try and save lives. Well, QE's only purpose is to give information. So to accuse him of cherry picking, that's a fallacious logic, is outrageous. So I get why it would annoy him so deeply.
Well, he doesn't want to be like the ballers will do that kind of thing without blinking an eyelid. Right? Without blinking, they'll do it. Yeah. And they won't think about it and they won't care about it.
And no shame. They'll do it and have no shame about it
exactly.
Either.
Yeah. So for him to feel like he's like being like that that'd be such a massive problem. You know what I mean? Because he couldn't handle being one of those people.
Yeah, and it's an affront to the way he behaves. So that's why it annoys him. It shouldn't, because it's just simply not true. But there we go. So that was good fun anyway. So check it out. I have put out a video promoting the roast on QE's channel from yesterday. So check it out. I also put out a shorts video. Both of them have got links to QE's roast on the QE or Quantum Eraser YouTube channel. So be here or be sphere. Check out the clip video. It's just the best of the roast. It's only an 8-minute video. It's mainly there to promote the live stream that QE did, so you can all check it out after the fact. But if you want like a few little snippets of funny bits, then they're there on that little clip that's got a link to QE's show. Shout out to the flat out truth. Pride, like most things, can be both good and bad. Yeah, very true. Thank you for the super chat.
And for the benefit of the audience, in the after show before the roast, Brian was given a great explanation of his latest video about great white sharks, which is a great conversation opener to people who have a subject. And what happened halfway through that explanation, Brian? Can you remember?
I don't actually.
Can you remember, Nathan?
I don't know. It was so unbelievably boring.
Well, while Brian was halfway through giving the explanation for his video, Nathan decided to play an interview of a 90-year-old Irishman in a pub who was uncomprehendable, which was quite disrespectful but very funny at the same time.
That's not new.
I forgot
I haven't even looked at that video, actually, to be honest. I haven't even looked at it today or last night. I don't know how it's doing. But
which one? The roast?
No, my video, the silly video I made about the great white shark movements. That the distances don't match the globe, basically. I was being accused of trying to be a marine biologist by the board. It's so stupid. That's all they have, because it doesn't fit the globe. That's the problem.
Okay, no, that was what you asked me yesterday if I'd seen it, because you'd only just released it. I hadn't checked it out, and I obviously doing QE's roast yesterday. I had the opportunity to since, actually, and I worked all morning doing little edits of the roast. I'm sure I said this yesterday, but I like it when it's like this. Yeah, all my stats are going in the right direction, and sometimes, not always, when they dip, I'll scurry to get a few videos out to push them back in the right direction. Whereas at the moment, there is no actual need to do that. I don't have to reactively work to push my statistics up. They're already fine as they are. But there's a lot going on. There's, QE's return. There's on a Friday or Thursday, as it was, the politics server. You get the odd fundy in. There's this stuff with Antarctica. There's just quite a lot going on in the background while we're promoting to our own side the idea that Earth is measured flat in both globe heads rhetoric and the initial claim for a flat earther that should be positively put forth on the front foot. In the meantime, because of the focus being, as I've just described it, the globers have been neglected, because in so describing in that way, pointing out that, well, their rhetoric's our rhetoric, it's all measured flat for everyone, so their rebuttals, and this hasn't been overtly stated, become matter of fact, inconsequential. And I hadn't realised this till about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 days ago. But in the background, they're all like boiling kettles, whistling away. Had you realised this, Brian? It's driving them nuts.
Are you talking about the ballers?
Yeah, I hadn't paid any attention to them. It's like, who cares, right? They're measuring it flat, but we need to get flat earthers to understand this argument. That's the focus. So then you kind of, without realising it, you're just saying, oh, you don't matter anymore. And they haven't taken lightly to it. They don't like it one bit.
No, they're in a rage. A 24/7 rage at the moment. Because they got nothing. That's what have they got? It's every time they try and bring up anything to do with a globe now, a flat earther can, if they choose, bring them straight back to the flat plane that the whole thing started with. And this is the thing. So they can't even get to their globe claim to start making an argument because of that. If you know what I mean? They can't get in their car to drive because they need the wheels that they're denying exist. You know what I mean? So they can't drive the car. So they're stuck, if you know what I mean.
I am enjoying it, though, from the aspect of saying to our own side, it's nice to... Normally we're decrying them for using the feast of nonsense, whereas now we're appealing to them and going, look, you have all involved yourself, if you've been here for any length of time, with a debate with a baller where he tells you that Earth is measured flat and then apologises immediately afterwards, tying the two things together, for how ball-shaped it doesn't need to be. Now, we also do that. We also allow our opponents to utilise aspects of Earth being measured flat to move forward and progress their false dichotomy globe Earth, which it isn't. It's based on flat Earth measurements, but they're what they think is a globe Earth claim, and stack it up against some garbage that you haven't claimed. Well, the more we point out that you have already had these arguments, you've already had your opponent tell you how they measure it flat, people will go, oh yeah. Whitsit did it only the other, or whatever, we responded to Whitsit's debate with Professor Dave Explains YouTube channel, host Dave, where he's saying, you guys tell me it's so big it's flat. Yeah, they do. But we connect those two things together like they're joined at the hip. One is apologetics for the other. Measured flat is the bit that's critical. Earth so big is just an apology for it being, not measured sphere shape because it doesn't need to be. The quicker we recognise that they need sea level, surface level, eye level, horizontal planes of reference, things perpendicular to them. Once we start recognising they're using all these tools, because that's how Earth is functionally utilised, flat, to progress their false dichotomy globe claim. They haven't really got a globe to reference when they talk about anything that's measuring Earth. It's all flat. Just allowed them for 10 years to use aspects of reality that are flat without even noticing. The most egregious and obvious is sea level. Whenever you hear it, stop the argument immediately. So you'll need a flat earth then. Horizontal plane of reference, average of sea level. For heights of mountains.
Correct. That's what frustrates me when I pop in Discord. No offense, guys. But I pop in and I hear you going through the same thing again with Bacon and Humble H, and it really annoys me.
Which is what, Neil? Be specific. Tell us all about it.
You need sea level. And they're still going around with this, it's not matching on a globe, and he's plotting 3 areas on Earth. We've been through this a million times with him, and you're just still entertaining it. Cut him right off at the knees as soon as he admits that he uses a flat plane, which he does.
It's a little bit different in that, in that particular debate, O'Neill. Up to a point, because but the first thing he's going to do is proclaim that he's using a flat plane, but he's going to try and call it a tangent. If you don't have the information to get past that point, and you try to argue past, if you allow that point to go past, and you argue after that, you've actually lost. You may not be seen as losing, but you've actually lost, because once you give him that tangent, that's it. Even though he's claiming a horizontal plane, or a flat plane, which will be the tangent, there's no horizontals on the globe. But as soon as he's claiming a tangent, yeah, he's claiming a flat plane. But sea level is not a tangent. So he's making you accept that underneath the boat, there's a line that's touching the surface of the water at one point, and this line is going in both to the back and to the front of the boat, and it's extending out, and it's not the surface of Earth. As soon as that tangent nonsense, as soon as they try to, yeah, of course you'll need flat, but it won't be a tangent, and here's why. That's where people go wrong when they're debating ballers on this subject. That's when it's time for dip correction.
To be honest, I don't even know if that's what he was saying, but that's what his usual thing is. And he claims to be a flat earther now, but he's trying to make sense out of something, and it's not making sense to him.
He's not a flat earther. He's not a flat earther.
Yeah, I know, but this is what he's telling them. I know that, Brian. I know that. Forget it. Go ahead.
No, labour your point, Neil. No. Stand up to him. And I'm not saying that in a, I'm trying to be contentious way, but make your point. Labour it.
I can't. I'm driving. It's very hard. I got to go off mute, go on mute.
Bloody hell.
Call beeping. Just forget it.
Go back on mute.
If you want to entertain Bacon, go ahead. I think it's a waste of time.
All righty then.
Bacon, like all the rest of the globers, will never be able to get past dip correction. And that's what gives you the horizontal. So if they can't get past that point, the very thing that gives you the horizontal, because it doesn't address their globe in any way, shape, or form. That's the end of that.
And what is dip correction, Brian?
Height of eye, a correction for the height of the observer's eye.
Yeah, it's a calibration.
Of the water underneath the boat.
Yeah, calibration to the surface level that you need.
Yeah,
so that
height of eye. Sorry, go on here.
So then that puts an end to his nonsense then.
Yeah, because if my oil line is measured at port to be 35 feet above the water underneath my boat, then when I'm out to sea and I take an angle between the visible sea horizon and the celestial body, then the only correction I can make is for 35 feet. That means that for that line that's at the horizon to come up to my oil line, right, then that means that or for the vertex at my oil line to go down like it is in the sort of reduction tables in the almanac, for that to happen, then my oil line can be no higher than 35 feet above the water at the horizon. And remember, within their paradigm, that's not water, that's a mirage. Within their paradigm, they're trying to claim it's a mirage. So all they can do is try and add in 7/6, or mathematically, and that is only getting close. It's not even precise. It's only getting close. But doesn't work because then they have a curved when you need a straight, a horizontal. And it won't work. It won't work once the vertex goes down to sea level, because then it has to be a horizontal. So you can't have a curve between the water underneath the boat and the water that's at the horizon. It has to be horizontal.
You just said it. You can't
Otherwise,
have a
it won't
curved
work.
sea level. You can't have a curved sea level, and they're utilising it. You're correcting to it. The surface level in this instance is the sea level you just described, and then as you were hesitating a little bit, it's because you're saying you can't curve the sea level.
I'm not hesitating. There's parts to this that I know about, right? That I know anyone who knows the stuff like Ruhif will try and use, right? But it's like this. You need a horizontal, right? The waters at the horizon can be no more than 35 feet below the eye line of the observer if the water underneath the observer is also 35 feet. That's the only way the correction works. Look at what the corrections are in the almanac, and then look at what the correction would be to a globe's geometric edge. Because you can't correct your altitude angle for a start if they want to claim a stupid refracted horizon, right? You can't get a correct altitude angle of a refracted horizon. Even if you're on a globe, it wouldn't work. You couldn't do that. You couldn't correct up from a refracted horizon. It's nonsense. You can only get it off the actual sea surface, and that's what you're correcting from or to.
Correct, exactly.
And that has to be a horizontal.
Surface level. And it's just not possible if you incorporating a geometric refracted position. It's utterly absurd. You're so right. This undoes that because the correction, when they claim tangency, only has a single point, and you're correcting utilizing a straight line for a start, right? It's an angle correction, and the correction is to surface level. So there's two things that completely overcome their utterly absurd rebuttal of refracted horizons that are corrected in height corrections that are measured off surface level, have a height to that surface level that is identical in the distance when you look at the horizon, as Brian just detailed. And the correction itself, straight line, angle correction, is to surface level. It's game over.
Well, yeah, exactly. They'll try and tell you that the mathematics brings the line that's going from the eye to the horizon up to the eye line. No. Excuse me. The mathematics doesn't make that happen. The mathematics works either way. It doesn't matter if the line comes up to the eyes or the vertex that's at the eyes goes down to the water underneath the boat. Because when it comes to the site reduction tables, and what are site reduction tables, what do? They correct for accuracy of your elevation angles. So if you have an angle of it at a certain time to a certain celestial body, right, and you take your angle, you go through, or you do your corrections, whatever, the site reduction tables, right, what they'll do is they'll say, no, they place the adjacent, the horizontal adjacent, they place that at sea level. So sea level becomes the adjacent. And they'll say mean sea level becomes your adjacent, right? This is in the almanac. And they correct your angle. They say, no, at this particular time, the actual angle should be an extra 1 minute, 2 seconds, or something like that, right? They correct it actually for precision. So the most precise elevation angles that you can get, right, which means you're using the site reduction tables, use mean sea level as the horizontal. How does that work? How does that work on the globe?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
But before you even get to that, you're talking about an angle correction, aren't you? How do you get this more accurate angle? Well, that means you're correcting it. This is part of the calibration when you do height of eye correction. That is the calibration, as you say, to surface level, sea level in this instance. How does that work for a globe? It doesn't. Number one, first of all, is the angle that you're going to be correcting, is that capable of being an angle or being corrected if it's a curved line? That would be to say a curved line between you and a refracted geometric position that isn't capable of being described as having a straight line between you and it. Is that what you can achieve an angle correction with, Brian?
No, you're going to need a horizontal line.
You need a horizontal line and a straight line to be correcting with. Everything must be straight. their increase of the surface at a rate of 7/6 of the radius, they might blag when they don't understand it that it's an increase of the light refraction rate. No, nothing to do with the light, everything to do with the ground being increased in its radial value at the rate of 7/6 of a radial value you got from a flat earth measurement. That's what it actually is. Does that work when you're just doing an angle correction to surface level with respect to your height above the deck and how high the point you're looking at must be with respect to the exact same measurement? No, it requires parallel planes. It requires surface level, sea level, flat.
Well, the thing about it is that once we get to the dip correction, right, as soon as they're trying to call that a tangent after you've done the dip, they're going to say, I have a tangent now. No, you don't. The tangent is before that within their claim, and the dip correction is actually from the tangent up to the eye line. Because if you look at the correction amount for, let's say, 50 foot, the correction amount for 50 foot, I think, is around 0.016 or 0.017 degrees or something like that. Whereas for the dip correction from the globe's geometric edge for 50 foot is 0.024 degrees, right? So that's a bit of a difference, right? And that would make a massive difference if you within using three elevation angles and three circles of equal altitude, because that would become a massive distance error over, like if you used the globe's geometric edge. The 0.016 or 0.017 for 50 foot observer height above the water, that matches a flat plane. So when they try and bring in 7/6, what they're doing is they're trying to insert a distance to the horizon at sea, right? A mathematical distance to the horizon that will have to have not an arc distance, but it'll have to be horizontal for them to do the dip correction, right? Because they try and insert their globe mass into this by giving the horizon a mathematical distance. Now, can the horizon have a distance, especially at sea? You can't give the horizon a distance at sea because you don't know how far away or close to you it is, right? You can't do that. So they add in their maths by giving it a mathematical distance. But what people don't realize, when they use 0.97, right, when they're using that, it's a mathematical horizontal distance to an horizon. That's what it actually is. So it's after that fact, when they bring it down to the center of their globe after that, mathematically, it's then they start talking about arcs. But when they're talking about this distance to the horizon and 7/6, the 7/6 is only about a mathematical distance to the horizon. That distance still has to be horizontal for them to do what they're doing, because they can't measure an arc adjacent. It's so ridiculous, and then go down to their equatorial plane with that, because it's not going to fit mathematically. It all has to be horizontal on the surface before they can bring it down to the center of their globe, which will be at vernal equinox.
Their justification for this isn't donkey dick horizons or 7/6 are. It's parallel light transposed to hell. That's their justification in their rhetoric. They need to start learning it.
Yeah, there's no, even within what they do, there is no curved out involved until the angle is at the center of their globe. And then they're going to hijack the celestial dome and place a globe in between them and the point on the celestial dome. That's all they're going to do. And that's what gives them their coordinate point.
Exactly. They claim tangency so they can have a perpendicular for their point at their zenith on their claim to be dingleberry dangling below their plane that they've acquired that has GPs out in space and functionally doesn't operate. So once you've got your plane, you then take the lines that come to that plane, not to a curve angle, not to a curve baseline, and then project that down into hell so that you've got your points working from the center of the sphere Earth, and then you can project out your PZX triangles to claim that the projected points that are working from the center of Earth, perfectly justifiable because light's coming in parallel, so it might as well be in the center of Earth, can then be projected up onto the globe surface, effectively a redundant protractor, hemispherical in nature, that has a globe pasted on top of it, that has the lines that you are taking from the plane, equatorial in nature, in the center of that hemispherical representation of a globe Earth out to the points of the stars on the celestial sphere. That's how the process actually functions. They want it both ways. They want to have a tangent to a geometric horizon for their dip correction with a bendy donkey dick horizon, and a tangent at their feet to give them perpendicular for their zenith. Well, it's like, which one do you want? You want two tangents now? Well, you can't have them. Your rhetoric is set in stone. The rhetoric takes a dingleberry Earth and projects it into hell. You don't have to like it. How's that geometric horizon working out for you, by the way, Roofy? Yeah? Good? We're going to cover a video in a minute. Anything more for this, Brian?
Yes, two other things. This mathematical horizon that they try and add in, they actually use a horizontal, the 0.97 is a horizontal distance to it. There's no arc between the boat and this mathematical horizon. They're adding that in because they need that to work in that way, so then they can back engineer it into their math, their globe maths. That's why they do that. There is no distance to the horizon. If you look at the Black Swan, from a 1 foot observation, the horizon is at least 10 miles away. The BLMSB 69 has another observation, but the horizon is, from a 1 foot observation, 31 miles away. So that means you can't tell how far away the horizon is going to be at sea. You don't even have an island or anything out at sea, nothing to mark it. You just know that you're out at this massive expanse of water. You can see an horizon, but you don't know how far away it is. So they're adding in a mathematical horizon. And there is, I have a dip chart on my other computer that's broke, and it does add in that, but it specifically uses, and it states there's using a horizontal. Do you know what I mean? It's like the whole purpose of it is that it's so they can back engineer it into their globe. There is no mathematical distance to the horizon. You don't know how far away it is at sea. Take my word for it, I've been out there. And you're not ever going to know.
And it's not needed.
The thing about it is, no, it's not needed. It's nothing to do with anything. This is the thing.
Exactly.
It's only connected to the globe. Come on.
I was just going to say, what you're actually utilising, the purpose of transposing these parallel light rays into hell, isn't to give you some horizon point that matches up with your assertion of a donkey dick horizon that they have when they're drawing out two tangents. The purpose of doing it is to get everything onto an extended plane. That's the reason. So the horizon doesn't even come into it. It's a tool we use on the surface to calibrate. That's it. That's what dip correction's for. Now, in the process, you can prove a flat Earth's being measured, height, and referenced and corrected to, and it's a straight line, and it's an angle correction. All of those things that we just discussed 10 minutes ago. But ultimately speaking, for them, they're going to make apologetics for a tangent plane that they're getting the angle to, that's moved into hell, so that it can functionally work after calibration. That's to say, you remove the horizon when you do this, onto an extended plane.
That will be an extended plane at vernal equinox. And at vernal equinox, their equatorial plane, as I said yesterday, extends out into their celestial plane, giving you a much huger flat plane. And it's pre-assumed, for ease of use, in both celestial navigation and astronomy, that the celestials are moving and that the plane is stationary. So what they end up with is a massive stationary plane with moving celestials. But yet, because they place a protractor, they're calling the globe surface, right, in between, orthographically, in between the observer and the celestial dome, they're then saying globe proven. There's nothing to do with the globe. You didn't use the globe one time. You just inserted the globe. Not the same as using it.
I'm going to do a quick call to action as we've got 112 people watching. Please share the show. Just like 2 clicks to stick it on your favourite social media outlet. So if you're a big fan of Bebo or MySpace or wherever it is the kids use these days, click on the share button and it'll present you with all your favourite links. And one more click and the share has been done. That's it. It's easy. So please share the show if you've not done so already. The only reason we've got 112 people watching is because there's a good chunk of people in the live audience that will share the show regardless. So if you're not one of them, please become one of them by clicking on that share button. Thank you very much to all of you who have shared the show already. Really appreciate it. Now we are going to get on to a video. So without further ado, not this one. We cover that in the pre-show. So this is a little bit of an oldie. I don't know if it's a goodie. I haven't watched it. We may have covered it before because it's 3 years old. So if we have already covered this, then we'll hopefully familiarise ourselves halfway through and then go, hang on, didn't we already cover this? But like I say, this one's from about 3 years ago. Does this evidence prove Earth is flat? And the channel is 43. And I'm going to stick a link to his channel in the YouTube live stream right now. So if you are watching live, same old call to action as always. Please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a positive comment that won't get removed. Please don't swear at him. But just bring his attention to the fact that we have shared the YouTube algorithmic love by sending our meager audience, by comparison to his audience at several million, to help him in the YouTube algorithmic love that we definitely don't receive. The idea being that if he was to respond to us in any way, he'd put a link to our video and help us along in the algorithmic love, as I say, that we definitely don't receive from YouTube. So you can probably see there's a link going by as we speak. So please, as I say, do it if you are watching live, but if you're watching after the fact, go to the live stream chat, open it up, and you'll see the link whizzing on by. And drop him a comment. Let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. I keep repeating this in case you haven't picked up on this from, if you just sit here and go, well, I'm not going. Why does he keep saying it 4 times? It's to buy you enough time to actually go and do it, so that when you come back, I'm still saying the same thing and you're not missing any of the show content. Just me still in the same call to action that I invited you to go and do, and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And then when you come back, you're hearing the same thing, and then we get back into the show. What do you reckon, guys? Do you reckon I've done it enough? Do we get on with it?
Yeah, I think about it.
Yeah. You don't have to be a dentist to know that tooth decay is caused by the formation of plaque, which is basically a thin film of bacteria that coats your teeth.
We're watching the right video.
When you eat foods high in carbohydrates, that bacteria converts the carbs into acid, which erodes your tooth enamel over time. Fair enough. But what would you say to someone who instead believed dental decay was caused by tooth worms? Could you present compelling evidence of your fancy
It's a false comparison fallacy. I see.
theory about plaque and bacteria that would convince them tooth worms don't really exist?
Now I've got something new to be worried about. The scary, frightening tooth worms.
And whilst we're on the subject, why do you believe in plaque and bacteria in the first place? Have you ever seen evidence for tooth decay with your own eyes? If not, how do you know the whole thing hasn't just been made up by dentists?
I don't. I mean, there is obviously methodologies that you can perform to validate claims that people make about such things. Depending on the standard they attribute to their own claims that they're making, obviously you'd hold them to scrutiny on their positive claims that they make as dental practitioners. I mean, come on, let's get to the false comparison already.
As a nice little money spinner. Teeth worms are a real thing, by the way. Or should I say, people thought they were a real thing for several thousand years. They're mentioned in ancient Babylonian and Chinese texts dating back to 1500 BC.
And you've double checked that these texts are definitely from 1500 BC. You've done the primary source research and validated that claim, have you? See, there's me scrutinising you, because you're now making claims, aren't you? That's the problem, you see. Someone like me will come along and say, have you actually backed that baseless assertion? Or did you just rattle off something you did on a Google search? Because it seems like the latter. I mean, you didn't offer any primary source evidence to back that baseless assertion, now did you? I mean, I could just take it as read like people took it as read that there was teeth worms. I have a much higher standard of evidence, though.
Perhaps the most famous example being a cuneiform tablet with the excellent title, The Legend of the Worm. Which
That's not bad as a primary source evidence. How did you validate that that was from the date that you claimed? Did we get that?
recounts the heartwarming tale of a...
Go on.
How did he link the two things together? I don't. There could very well have been worms, depending on the food you're eating back then. I mean, there's licensed stuff in whitefish. You know, white fish with white flesh. There's worms and licensed stuff in that. So I don't know. In you know, even when you're eating fish and stuff in Japan, you must eat ginger to kill off these things. So I don't know if this guy has really thought this out.
Band of blood-drinking, root-eating worms that devour your teeth from the inside out. Why do I have a sudden urge to brush my teeth? Whether this belief came from actual worms in
There it is. It's the juxtaposition with belief. So we can already tell where this is going, can't we?
infected water, or the worm-like cylindrical structures that can be found inside the human teeth, we're not quite sure. But thankfully, science eventually came along and put this particular nightmare to bed.
Oh, really? Science put it to bed, did they? You mean people studied teeth? As opposed to we saw a phenomena and then validated the cause of it with systematic experimentation based on that natural phenomena that you're not yet describing?
Tooth worms are just one of the many outdated scientific beliefs that we've...
Scientific beliefs? I'm going to go with no.
That's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
A scientific belief. It's either proven or not.
Exactly. Oxymoron.
since proven to be nonsense. For instance, these days most of us accept the Earth is a sphere.
That's because you hold a belief about it. You accept it with your belief. We demonstrate how that belief is originated in flat Earth measurements. That's what we do. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just being crass. Scientific belief.
He's got a scientific belief in the Earth being a sphere. Well, if you take the same standard of hijacking pseudo-scientific claims and calling them science, and then attributing that to what he probably ascribes to being a scientific belief, yeah, it works perfectly, actually.
But how many of us have actually seen the evidence that it's true? Contrary to popular belief, the spherical nature of planet Earth has been a widely accepted fact for a good millennia or two.
So we're convoluting things. A widely accepted fact. Is that how facts work, is it? No. What you're actually saying is there's been a consensus. Well, consensus doesn't form reality. This is shocking. I never read between the lines when I entered into the discussion of flat Earth. And it horrified me when I had it qualified by an answer from an opposing side of debating panel that they actually do believe this. The consensus, if the world believe this fact, in quotes, then it makes the world that they believe true. That's his standard of evidence. Now, he's not said it in such blunt terms, but that is the fact of the matter based on what he just said, because he's called it a fact based on consensus. No, mate. Appeal to consensus fallacy. Not fact. Go on, someone had something. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I was going to say that he also begged the question within his question, as in he said, or within his statement, because he said that the spherical nature of our planet Earth, and like straight away, as soon as he's saying planet, he's inserting a spherical object, as that's how it's understood. Planet is the word planet. When we speak about it, it infers a spherical object, a celestial spherical object, of which he's claiming that the globe Earth is one of. So his own language is making it impossible for him to ever consider. They all do this. I've heard it time after time. His own language is making it impossible for him to consider any other possibility, simply because his language is in a circular fashion, bringing him straight back to the belief he started with. If you understand what I mean.
Absolutely, he's begging the question.
Having been discovered by Pythagoras and others as far back as the 5th or 6th century BC. The validity of the shape of the planet has been...
Again, primary source...
Pythagoras.
Go on, Brian, you go first.
No, it's the last one he brought, Pythagoras. Pythagoras is famous for right-angle triangles. It's the Pythagoreans that were making a big deal out of the sphere. Now, I'm sure Pythagoras thought the sphere was a handy shape too, but I don't have, what evidence is there that Pythagoras was claiming the Earth was a sphere? What has that got to do with geometry?
I'm pretty sure he's famous for having curved baselines in his triangles, isn't he?
Yeah, you can't have a right-angle triangle without a curved baseline.
Absolutely. Makes perfect sense.
Been reinforced countless times over the years, whether by European explorers sailing around it, or by NASA taking pictures of it from...
Taking pictures from a sky vacuum. You asked this question in terms of what you, the audience, were invited to reminisce about what they'd seen. But this isn't what they've seen. This is a claim to be picture from a sky vacuum in violation of natural law. if we're to take this as evidence of being photography, as you've just asserted it is, by way of your belief, then I must accept that this black area, yeah, is 10 to the minus 17 torr. And that this cloud formation, we can take that as analogous to high-pressure gas by demonstration. So we've got high-pressure gas next to a 10 to the minus 17 torr sky vacuum. Straight up second law of thermodynamics violation. High-pressure gas expands in all directions to fill whatever availability of volume it has. And you're suggesting there's a never-ending, expanding void of nothingness at 10 to the minus 17 torr. A high vacuum next to high-pressure gas. No. No, this isn't a photograph. It's a claim to be photograph from a place that isn't real. I'm not taking pictures of gas not expanding into sky vacuums. It's absurd.
Space. But despite that, the average, everyday person might have trouble pointing to any conclusive proof that shows them the spherical nature of the Earth. Like the cause of tooth decay, it's such a well-established fact that we...
Really? I mean, we're currently pointing out to our audience how you and your assumption of a well-established fact is a failing in your research to establish the actual origins of the measurement that give you the sphericity that you believe in. They would be measurements off a flat plane. I mean, it's a shame that you haven't done any more than surface level research, or you wouldn't be making the false comparisons. And you'd have shown some primary source research. I mean, you didn't do any of that. What you have done is claimed that you've got the begging the question assumption correct. You haven't. The origins that we expose here are, for your globe faith, flat Earth in nature. The origins of your globe are measurements of a flat Earth. Might be hard for you to believe and swallow and digest now, but feel free to tune into Flat Earth debate on a daily basis and you'll find out in a more expansive way how Earth is measured flat.
simply don't question it.
Nathan.
Or at least, most of us don't. Because...
Yeah, go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, how many fellow YouTubers have you corrected and educated this year alone, would you guesstimate?
I don't know how many people I've influenced.
I'm just wondering how many of those have reached out to you and thanked you for the free education that you provided?
Audience members, lots. Other influencers. Was it around the idea of
Other
other
YouTubers
None.
and their videos?
None.
None?
Well, no, not overtly. I mean, there might have been thanks intertwined with QE or Brian's video or something like that, but as far as I know, nobody. Why? What are you fishing for?
No, I was just wondering, maybe this guy would be the exception. But isn't that funny, that though? That every time you cover one of his videos, it's great because people I know or speak to will have watched a video on Flat Earth like this. So the fact that you've covered it, I can just give your video to them and say, there you go. You know, everything said in that video is addressed and covered in depth. And there's probably an after show where they talk about it more.
Oh, gotcha.
Just the fact that nobody gets back to you to say thanks, it's just a shame.
You're asking
that's all.
who from the people we cover like this now have responded. That's what you mean. I gotcha. I was a bit slow on the uptake, sorry.
Yeah, it's just a shame. That's all.
Now, a couple of millennia after we as a species generally agreed on what the Earth looks like, a growing number of people...
There it is again. We generally agreed. Okay. I mean, if we generally agree it's a pineapple, does that make it a pineapple? No. Yeah, we don't live in a consensus-based reality, as much as you would like it to be. You've said it twice now.
People are rejecting established science.
No. Established science would be the establishment of cause and effect reasoning based on a hypothesis after observing natural phenomena. That's established science. That's the scientific method. When you take a consensus reality and assert it as being science, that's also fraud. Because it isn't. You declared it literally in the previous breath. What we generally agreed on. That's not science. Science isn't a general agreement on anything. It's empirical by nature.
And instead,
Isn't
subscribing...
Sorry, Nathan. Isn't it the height of cheek for these people, and they continually do it, the height of cheek for them to try and show something that has some validity. Let's say he was showing stuff to do with dentistry there earlier, and to then equate that to what he believes in concerning the nature of our world. Like, that's the height of cheek. You're taking something that has some validity, and you're trying to parallel it with something that is purely your belief, and you're trying to then use this hijacking of something in the real world, something valid. Trying to use this hijacking of this valid thing we know of in the real world to somehow character assassinate me and us and support your belief, as if you have like the same level of evidence to support what you're promoting. Like, where do these people get off with this stuff?
Yeah, it's outrageous, isn't it, when you boil it down that way?
It is, yeah.
To the theory that the Earth is flat. So, strap yourselves in, because this is going to be one nonsensical ride.
Nonsensical? You already had yourself in a category error. Theory? No, that comes after validation of experimentation based on a hypothesis formation that you validated after observing natural phenomena. That's where you get theory. Yeah? You don't know what you're talking about. You've got all of these terms mixed up and muddled. You don't know what any of them mean. Yeah, Brian.
I was going to say that was probably the most accurate because Earth is actually validated flat, so it is closer to a theory than not.
That's category error. Describing the nature of an aspect of our reality isn't cause and effect requirement. There's no phenomena being observed. If I say the table's flat, you can't say, well, what's the cause of that? Now, what do you mean, what's the cause of that? It's just an absolute statement. Concrete noun. Table. Not, why is the table spontaneously combusted? It wouldn't even be a natural phenomenon if the table did spontaneously combust. Tree spontaneously combusted. Or in more simplistic terms, leaf falling off it. That's something happening. That's a phenomena. You can study that. Tree itself, it's a concrete noun. Flat, that's a geometric aspect. Not geometric. Brian's going to get all over me now, isn't he? Just pretend I didn't say that, Brian. We're moving on.
The Flat Earth movement can trace its roots back to English inventor, writer, and devout Christian Samuel Burley Rowbotham.
What? The Flat Earth traces its origins to 1816. Are you having me on? Wow. Surface level regurgitation, man. You think this is the origins of Flat Earth? No.
No, but he's getting ready to character assassinate Rowbotham.
For any date this man offers up for an origin story that's claimed to be a proofsy of a globe, I can assert the origins of the measurements that have been converted into Keplerian orbital motion and sphericity. Ergo, any date ascribable by any globe believer will automatically be hijacked by me to prove that Earth was known to be flat on that date. Any date, by any reference. There's my challenge. I lay it down to you. I know I'll already win because I know the origins of the globe. Us with our advanced heliocentric understanding, right, Brian?
Exactly, Nathan. Because what he's doing here with his Rowbotham reference is he's trying to claim that that's when the flat Earth started, but we've known it's a globe for millennia. Do you know what I mean? This is where he's at, because he's of the belief that we know it's a globe for millennia. Yet every single date that he brings up, you can show him the flat plane they needed on that date.
Exactly.
To mathematically create that globe.
Precisely. Oh, it's nice when we're actually in agreement with each other, Brian.
Who was born in 1816. It's no longer known exactly what prompted Rowbotham to reject a long-accepted fact concerning...
What are these lines on the globe you got there in this diagrammatical belief structure that you've got pictorially represented in videography format? It seems like it's got these lines on it. What do you think they are, Brian? This like this globe, and it's got these lines going up it. What do you think they are?
Are they supposed to represent latitude?
Latitude? Oh, I wonder where they get measured. Maybe you could enlighten him, Brian.
Well, latitudes are horizontal measurements from the geographic North Pole, also known as the GP point of Polaris. Horizontal measurements from that point straight out to the equator. and then they're extrapolated beyond the equator south. And they're all straight lines diverge from, they're all circles along straight lines that are diverging from the center point.
Surely
So
those
plane, two-dimensional. You can't have two-dimensional. You can't have two-dimensional coordinates on the surface of a globe, and then somehow traverse that globe using those two-dimensional measurements while you're on the surface. It's not possible. You need three-dimensional coordinates for a globe on its surface. We don't have any coordinates that don't for a globe for just its surface. All the
and do those flat Earth coordinates necessitated to create this belief structure he's got his fingertips on? Do they predate Rowbotham, perchance?
Oh yeah, thousands of years before Rowbotham.
No way.
Thousands of years.
So we could offer up evidence of a flat Earth that's thousands of years prior.
Absolutely, yeah. And we can show them that it's still in use today, every day.
Yeah.
On his phone.
Yeah, what would you know? I mean, everybody already knew Earth was flat. I mean, this guy's a bit slow on the uptake, but it is a 3-year-old video. I mean, 3 years ago, fair enough. Now, mate, we all know Earth's measured flat. Even the globe side know it. You know, they justify their belief in a globe by telling us it's just so big. That's why we measure Earth flat. And everyone's entitled to their belief. But even those who have a globe belief these days know it's measured flat. I mean, duh. What are your latitude lines for your globe that you got there? Yeah, there'd be flat Earth measurements of the Polaris-centric positioning system that's flat and the angles to it. Yeah, you'll need them first, mate, to make this globe. They definitely predate Rowbotham, I can assure you of that.
Our fundamental understanding of the universe.
1 second, sorry. Before you say no, we know that it's an accepted fact for thousands of years that the Earth has been measured to be a flat plane. Thousands of years, accepted fact. That's not what he said.
Yes.
But we can support that fact.
Oh, you've done what I've said. Perfect. Keep going. Yes, exactly.
But that's it, isn't it? We can support that fact. I can support that it's an accepted fact that the Earth has been measured to be a flat plane and traversed as a flat plane and navigated as a flat plane for thousands of years. There's no time in history that he can go back there that I can't show him or you can't show him that, yep, flat plane required.
Yep.
Since Genesis.
Yeah, this really is the linchpin. I mean, I can't stress this enough to the audience, right? We will be rounding out the live stream shortly, but we will do a little bit more on this video, so this isn't time to tune out. I can't stress this enough. They use a flat plane, and we can show them it in every instance, their origin, their genesis, for the globe belief, and its measurements of the plane we actually dwell atop, because that's where we acquired the measurements to convert to a globe for you to believe in. Now, that being the case, it not only is an outstanding argument to prove Earth is being measured flat because the globe requires it to be, it's also a waypoint for anybody who's on the fence right here, right now. And moving into the future, it's a point that they can casually just declare that they already knew. Yeah? This gives everybody with a current heliocentric belief that they are unaware of, they just thought it was a globe, to say, oh, but there's no embarrassment here. I actually, like everybody, always knew that the original measurements were in a flat Earth. I mean, I always knew that. I mean, yeah, I understand that, you know, you can use the ball Earth to make good predictions of the sky. It's, you know, out of the box thinking and all, but obviously we need the Earth to be measured flat. And I always knew that because any surface dweller can look into how Earth is actually measured and then find a load of globe Earth apologies for why it wouldn't need to be measured as a globe in this instance. It's just really big. So everybody already knew this. The quicker we can get it into our own side. This is the point I made at the beginning of the show, Brian. This is what ticks off the globers. I'm adding them in now, having to go out of my way to, because they're a bleeding afterthought, aren't they? Who cares? You're just part of our rhetoric now. You measure Earth flat too, sunshine, globe believer. What's that? You got a rebuttal? No, mate, you haven't. We don't care anymore. So get triggered over there somewhere. We're not interested. Globe believer.
Exactly.
But
sorry, go on. It's not
I was playing the video. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying exactly. They're all triggered that they're losing relevance rapidly. And it's not that we're intentionally doing it. It's just that they're not. We don't require them or what they believe. No, as you put it, it's surplus to requirements. We don't have no requirement for them or what they believe. It has no relevance to reality or progress of humanity.
It's not just normies. There's a line in the sand here too to be drawn between a distinguishment that we can make between globe Earth believers, normies, just average Joe, going about his business, not aware of the flat Earth debate, not in any way taking part, right? And anti-flat Earthers. When you say they've lost their relevance, that's quite specific to anti-flat Earthers. It's nice that we can actually categorise them. We're not stereotyping them either. They have to, to be called that, they have to have done certain things and behaved in certain ways. But the point is, your average Joe normie is the guy I'm saying, no, this could be that linchpin. If you haven't been here exercising zealotry, you can just say, oh, I always knew. I mean, it'd be a lie. But ultimately, it's a once you've heard it 2 or 3 times, 12 months down the line, you can say, oh, well, it's no, slight white lie. I always knew it was flat. Yeah, I always knew the measurements were flat. I mean, that's how we survey stuff and build stuff and that. Obviously. I mean, I always knew. Oh, you're new to the subject. I always knew. When you've only found out 12 months ago. But with this information, Earth's measured flat. Yeah, for everyone. So, it's a line that gets drawn in the sand between what they think they are. They're scrabbling back up a hill to try and be, blissfully unaware, having taken one of the 2 pills that Morpheus offered. They've fallen down the hill. They just don't like what's at the bottom of it and want their way back up. They're a whole team of ciphers trying to make their way back into the Matrix so they can just blissfully be unaware of this flat Earth nonsense that they really wish it was. And just be like everyone else. The people I'm saying no can just eventually go, oh, yeah, I knew that. Yeah, I knew it was measured flat. Yeah, I've got a good grip on reality.
Well, I just want to reference something. At the start of 2022, the end of 2022, very start of 2022, me and Mitchell both decided separately, but at the exact same time, right, just by pure coincidence, that we weren't going to waste our time debating anti-flat earthers anymore unless they were going to pay us for it. And the reason is because it was only going to be a waste of your time, because that's all it is. Because all they want to do is keep you in a loop where they're relevant. Yet they'll contradict themselves, change their story, lie, whatever they have to do, cherry pick, hide information, whatever they have to do, character assassinate you, whatever they have to do, right, they'll do it, right, within that debate arena. And that's okay with them as long as you stay there and keep going in a loop with them. And I see flat earthers going in this loop with them all the time. It's like you're not valuing your own time, right? Because when you're there for 2 hours arguing with one of these people, you're giving that person, whether it be MacToon, whoever, relevance. You're giving MacToon relevance when he doesn't have any. He's proven himself to be inept. He's proven himself to be dishonest. He's proven himself to be completely wrong. Yet you're giving him relevance when you're debating him for 2 hours, unless he's paying you. Otherwise, why waste your time? Because if you look up, what is this thing, the final experiment? What is it, Nathan? This big nonsense. It's trying to give relevance to these people again, isn't it?
Yeah, bring up the old argument, get history repeating itself so they can have some relevance in old arguments. I'll just do a quick shout out though, sorry to cut you off. JML24, thank you for the super chat. He says, the peace and harmony being demonstrated by Nathan and Brian is proof positive that Rocky Balboa is a prophet. If I can change and you can change, everybody can change. Thank you for the super chat.
But it's true though. That's all. I mean, we are at peace, because we're not concerned with people who are trying to be our opposition because they need relevance. They're not relevant.
Well,
Unless they
are
can prove themselves
in
to be so.
algorithmic terms, they've got far more relevance than us. They get all the searches, but I won't moan about that right now. We'll carry on a little bit more with this video. We'll do maybe 5-10 minutes more, and then we'll move over to the after show.
Reject it he did, and with that strange kind of confidence reserved only for fools and madmen, he grew so confident in his flat earth theory, he decided
Not a theory, and you know, there's no need to poison the well.
he was going to prove it. His first test took place along the Old Bedford River, which confusingly is actually a canal, in 1838 in what's now known as the Bedford Level Experiment.
Yeah, it's not an experiment. You know, a principle that water finds and maintains level is a principle utilised in building. This is an unnecessary folly. I mean, it's reminiscent of the stature and the word. I was going to say popularity, but it's the wrong word. Exposure, there's the right word, that Netflix gave to people going out and claiming experiments in more recent history. You know, it's garbage. You know, this isn't required in terms of how Earth is measured, what we do in terms of navigation and mapping. None of it's relevant. I mean, the Bedford level quasi-experiment, pseudo-science, is another example where a baller, anti-flat earther as we now call them, can utilise the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator and its orthographic representation of the world to compare and contrast what will effectively be a differential calculation between the surface level of the water and the eye level at elevation. It's a route into a false dichotomy that we fell victim to for 10 years. Not anymore. Everything in the Bedford level experiment that's describing dip, drop, Earth curve, all require surface level differentials to claim them. In other words, Earth must be measured flat for all the primary claims that are utilised before the false dichotomy laid out in the argument that follows the quasi-experiment known as Bedford level. So I don't lend any kudos or accreditation to this or Rowbotham in this particular example. He certainly isn't the father of flat Earth. He's another person that's fallen victim to the false dichotomy, where we use flat Earth measurements to claim how much globe Earth obstruction should or shouldn't be there based on how much he says the world would fall away in an orthographic view in his demonstration. So there we go, there's my critique of both Rowbotham and the false dichotomy that has been set up nicely to be played out and now publicised for a solid chunk of time. I mean, you're calling him the father of flat Earth, for God's sake.
It's RC's paradox.
One second.
It's refracted curvature's paradox you just detailed. RC's paradox.
Well, what I would say though, Nathan, is why, I have to say this to you, why are you so fast to throw Rowbotham underneath the bus when he was just pointing out just that water does not take an arc, right? That's basically what he was pointing out, and he proved it. But why? Because they bring these people up, and then flat earthers feel the need to distance themselves from these people. Like the ballers bring up, when someone on our side brings up Neil deGrasse Tyson, the ballers try to distance themselves from Neil deGrasse Tyson. Why? I don't feel any need to distance myself from Rowbotham. Rowbotham was correct. I don't feel any need to do that. What he did, he showed, even though history tries to paint it differently because they leave out the final information, the most important information, he proved the surveyor Wallace wrong. In the eyes of a judge at the time, he proved Wallace wrong. He proved his point that the Earth was not a globe. So I have no reason to distance myself from Rowbotham. What he did was good. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with Rowbotham.
Okay.
I don't know everything about him, but I'm fine with him.
Okay.
And if this guy wants to bring him up to me, I'll show him what Rowbotham did, and I'll debunk any claim this guy has.
No, that's fine. I'm only refuting him based on the context of the current discussion around science. It's being labelled as an experiment, and it isn't. Now, on a
But did Rowbotham label it as that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, on a different day, contextually, I might be flying my Rowbotham banner and saying how wonderful he is. So or to put it another way, I don't disagree with you. Contextually, there's everything positive to get behind when it comes to Rowbotham's demonstration of how water finds and maintains its level, as opposed to having a physical geometric sphere edge dropping away at 8 inches per the mile squared, which is what is asserted. Now, I don't like this particular example because it is, in my humble opinion, an opening, not through Rowbotham's fault, to allow a juxtaposition between the orthographic representation of Earth curve and a justification for why you're not seeing it. Well, what do I hear ringing in the back of my mind when I think of Rowbotham? Oh, refraction! Let's have a quick look at the orthographic comparisons without perspective in them and talk about refraction, Brian. That's why I don't like it.
Sorry, I stepped on the end of your statement.
That's okay.
I agree. I understand that because that's what Wallace brought in. Wallace tried to bring 7/6 into the equation, right? Which is a heap of nonsense, right? Now, as I said, history has left out the information that happened after that, where Rowbotham disproved them. But the point being, Rowbotham rather than disproved them, he proved himself to be correct. The point being is that let's just go back to the basis of it. Why did Rowbotham choose that canal? Because there's no locks. Why? There's no locks on that stretch of canal. There's nothing. Why did they have locks on canals? If the Earth is a globe, why would you need locks on canals?
To raise the water level to a higher elevation with respect to sea level.
Yeah, but what's the point of locks? Because according to what they say, based off of a globe, the water just conforms to that surface. Why would you need locks? So just that alone, I don't even need to go into Rowbotham. Just go into what he chose that.
What's locks, Brian?
Locks are these doors that open. So in a canal, you close two gates and then pour water in from the higher side or let water out to the lower side to raise or lower the ship with respect to sea level when there's an incline. So obviously you can't make the water flow uphill. So you have to literally physically raise the water level of the canal. Now when there's a transition, the lock closes behind the narrowboat, boat, barge, whatever you're putting into it. And then you, like I say, fill it with water and then the boat carries on its way. It's a very prolonged process. So Brian's saying, why is he using that stretch? Well, because just by its nature, there is no deviation from sea level in terms of its overall elevation with respect to sea level at whatever altitude you are at Bedford.
Exactly. There's no lock, so there's no up or down. Why would you have a lock on a globe? Everything's supposed to be according to their original claims, not the general relativity. But the original claims is that all the water is being pulled towards the center. So what would be the purpose of a lock? There'd be no purpose to a lock. That's why he chose that particular piece of canal, because there isn't any locks. But he probably should have just detailed what a lock was. Do you know what I mean? On a canal, and why would you have this on a globe? You wouldn't. These things are not purposeful on a globe. J-Tola Media showed a lock at the California aqueduct. There's a lock there. Why did they have a lock on that aqueduct? You know, why would you have a lock on a globe? You wouldn't. There's no purpose for a lock on a globe. It completely contradicts what they're claiming concerning what water will do via a pull to the center, via force of gravity that's now under 9 years out of date.
A section of his book that claimed a rough sea will affect which part of an object disappears as it moves further away from the shore. It was nonsense wrapped in a half-truth.
Like nonsense that hashtag shit shrinks. Yeah, this cow is small, holds up toy cow. That cow, looks out a window at a real cow, is far away. Is that a half-truth? No, that's perspective. You're a muppet.
But plenty of people present that day believed him. As much as it's easy to poke fun at Rowbotham and his flat earth fallacy, it's worth remembering he didn't have the benefit of the more obvious forms of evidence for a spherical earth that we have today. The first image of the earth taken from space was...
First image from a second law of thermodynamics. You've experienced this, have you, spaceman? You went up and got images from a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. Did you wave goodbye to the high pressure gas below you to take a snapshot of it as you entered an area of volume that gas pressure wasn't filling? Oh, no, this is based on your belief from your high priests who enter the heavens to give you Kodak images. Is that right? Wow, what a wonderful standard this is. Also a second law of thermodynamics violation, gas fills space.
Snapped more than 100 years after the Bedford level experiment. And this was also some 65 years before the invention of the aeroplane, meaning world travel was far, far trickier than it is today. That bit's important, because one of the easiest ways to demonstrate the Earth is spherical in everyday life is to...
What do you reckon he's going to come up with? Any guesses?
Well, he just brought up the airplane, which is the number one proof that the Earth is not a globe, it's flat. There's nothing that proves it better than air travel. It's just outright. It's like it couldn't be any more rock solid that it's flat via air travel. So I don't know what he's going to come up with.
To hop on a plane to the opposite hemisphere to the one you live in and look up at the night sky.
No, it's antipodal affirming the consequent. If I assume I have antipodal positioning on a globe, then when I travel south, I'll be on the bottom of a globe. That's his argument.
Yeah.
Which will be full of constellations not visible from your home. But...
So if I move to an area south where the stars above that area are different, I can make an automatic antipodal assumption that I have travelled and ended up on the other side of a globe I've just assumed. No, that's completely non sequitur. The sky above you and the positions with respect to the ground that we plot for mapping and navigating are still above you when you go south. Now, that might be a shocking revelation to a fundamentalist religious zealot with a globe belief, but it ain't shocking to me. Going south does not make the stars do anything different. They're still above me. Yeah? Now, shocking that we've got different stars over different positions on the ground, and very useful for navigating the flat Earth and plotting positions on a flat Earth that you'll later transpose onto your globe for you to believe in and reify. But ultimately speaking, the sky's always above us. Doesn't make any difference. It's completely non sequitur for you to just affirm the consequent with this and assume you're begging the question sphere Earth has something to do with travelling in an antipodal assumption. Doesn't prove a thing.
I think you've just missed it, Nathan, what he did. And he did this...
Anything. How dare you?
No, I'm afraid you did. Because you're going to kick yourself when I point it out. What he did is what he's been trained to do his whole life, which is to use the flat Earth first and then point to the globe, right? He just spoke about flying a plane, right, south of the equator from the north, right, heading south, and then talking about the celestials. And you went into talking about the celestials. Is that plane accounting for curvature and rotation?
No. It's flying at
a
fixed altitude, and the altitude that it's fixed to is with respect to sea level. So everything about it, I thought you covered this already, actually. You're saying I missed it. You had already covered this.
Yeah, but you in a way you took the bait, because when you start talking about the stars, you're going into trying to debunk or trying to talk about how what he's claiming is begging the question for him and this, that, and the other thing, and he's just pre-assuming antipodal, and it's actually the star. Yeah, what you said was true, but if that plane's pilot is not accounting for the curvature of a globe Earth and the rotation of it from that point A to point B, doesn't matter what he has to say, because the surface underneath is obviously flat. End of story. You don't need to go into his antipodal positions and what he's blah, blah. None of that matters, because you bring him straight back to reality. That was his use of the flat plane there. That's what he used. He's inserted that was the insertion of the flat plane right there for him.
Correct.
He needed that.
No, you're absolutely right. That's where he needed a flat Earth, and I did miss it. You're absolutely right. That's going to be my point to round out and say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member to watch the after show and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.